If we start from scratch with no preconceptions, what's the simplest, most concise, logically consistent, and explanatory model of absolutely everything we can come up with that's also consistent with the latest science? This talk presents such a complete theory of everything. It's adapted from my book, Universal Reality 2.0, which presents the theory in detail. The full text of this talk and Universal Reality 2.0 are available as free PDF files at edgarlowen.com/reality.html. Existence. All that exists is a substrate of existence and the forms of existence that exist within it. The ancients called this substrate of existence Ctoe, or sunyata. Science calls it the quantum vacuum, but has only begun to discover its full nature. The forms of existence that exist within the substrate of existence are the elementary particles and their particle components. Because forms can be observed and distinguished, they are forms of information. They are fundamentally just data. The substrate of existence, the quantum vacuum, has two realms: the realm of the observable universe of actual particles, and the virtual realm from which actual particles actualize, and in which the virtual data of the complete fine-tuning and the elemental program that computes particle interactions exist. The quantum vacuum is active. It continually computes the interaction of all the particle data within it. In this manner, the current state of the universe is continually recomputed and evolves. Thus, the quantum vacuum acts as a universal processor that continually recomputes the universe, and the operation of this processor is the source of the flow of time. The active presence of this process manifests as a universal current present moment in which the entire universe exists. Outside this, there's not even nothing. Because non-existence cannot exist, the substrate of existence has always existed, and there's no need for a creator or a creation event. Instead, the Big Bang was an actualization of particle forms from the quantum vacuum. Relativity. The rate at which the quantum vacuum computes the universe manifests as c, the speed of light in vacuum. All processes in the universe are computed with a total space plus time velocity equal to c, using a fixed number of processor cycles in every processor tick. First, any velocity in space is computed, and then any remaining processor cycles are used to compute the internal evolution of the process, which manifests as its local clock time rate. The total c space plus time velocity of everything produced by the processor is the source and fundamental principle of the relativistic universe. Thus, the entire universe is continually recomputed in the same current universal present moment, including the local clock time rates of all processes. Thus, there are two kinds of time: the universal processor time of the entire universe in which the universe exists, and the current local clock time rates of all processes, which are all simultaneously computed in the current processor time tick, depending on their local spatial velocity. Gravitation. Velocity in space is called energy. Different forms of spatial velocity manifest as different forms of energy. Masses are forms of energy that are fields of hyperfine vibrations of spatial velocity in the fabric of space itself. Because masses are fields of spatial velocity, they slow the velocity of time within the field to maintain a total of c, and this is the source of gravitational time dilation. The conservation of mass and energy is simply the conversion of one form of spatial velocity to an equivalent amount of another form of spatial velocity. Quantum reality. At the quantum scale, the processor randomly conflates a small amount of velocity in time and velocity in space as it computes the universe. This is the source of the quantum nature of the universe and is the source of all quantum randomness. This quantum scale random conflation of spatial and temporal velocity accounts for both the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and the apparent wave function nature of particles. In this manner, the universal processor computes a universe that's both relativistic at large scales and quantum at small scales. In this manner, relativity and quantum theory are unified in a single computational model of reality. And all the supposed paradoxical nature of quantum theory vanishes when we understand how what we call 3D space is actually created by particle interactions and viewed as an emergent, seemingly physical structure in our minds. The computational universe. The observable universe consists only of the data that is elementary particles and their particle components, which exist in an actualized state in the fundamental substrate of existence, the quantum vacuum. Particle components such as mass, charge, spin, etc. are conserved as particle interactions are computed. This produces relationships among the particle components. These relationships among particles through their components manifest as all the emergent structures of the observable universe. Only individual particle interactions are actually computed. Emergent structures are the resulting particle relationships viewed in aggregate. Emergent structures include all the multi-particle structures in the universe, including dimensional space. Particle interactions create what our brains interpret as 3D space in the form of dimensional relationships among particles due to the conservation of energy and momentum in particle interactions. What we call dimensional space is a 3D mental graph constructed by the brain to make sense of dimensional relationships among observed objects by simulating them within this graph. There is no physical 3D space. This is one of the many illusions created by how our brains simulate the data of the universe as a physical space full of physical objects. In reality, the observable universe consists entirely of data and their relationships, just as the experienced world around us actually consists of neural data structures in our brains sampled from an external world. Our brain simulates this data as a physical space full of physical objects to make it easier for us to function. Thus, the apparently physical universe is an adaptive illusion of evolution. We can confirm this by mentally dissecting any apparently physical object into the data components that in combination our brain tells us is that physical object. In actuality, it's self-evident that only data can be observed or experienced. Thus, everything must be composed of data. The observable universe exists as data in the quantum vacuum, just as a virtual reality actually consists as data in a computer memory and appears as a 3D world only in the viewer's headset. Similarly, at the fundamental level, the universe actually consists only of non-dimensional data in the computational space of the quantum vacuum and appears as a physical spatial universe only in our minds. Emergence. This is a complete theory of everything that consistently describes all aspects of reality at the fundamental level and is completely consistent with latest science as well. Everything else emerges from the interactions of particles in aggregate.